All right, let's jump right into this highly tactical explainer. We designed this one specifically for high-performing founders and executives who are navigating the hyper-competitive ecosystems of modern India. Look, if you're running a technology startup or a fast-paced business agency, you already know the margin for error is absolutely zero. So today, we're putting on the lens of an elite combat transformation specialist to decode the dichotomy of leadership by former Navy SEALs Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. We're going to take that high-stakes military strategy and translate it directly into corporate venture architecture. Now, I really want you to ask yourself something right now. Is a misapplied, one-dimensional understanding of leadership creating massive team paralysis and just choking your operational bandwidth? You see, the original concept of extreme ownership taught us to take 100% accountability, right? No excuses. But as these combat veterans started consulting for global corporate houses and tech startups, they noticed this massive critical failure in the system. Leaders were actually taking the concept to such an extreme that their leadership styles were literally crashing their own companies. No way, right? But it's true. So here's our mission blueprint for today. We're going to cover 1. The extreme trap. 2. Balancing people. 3. Balancing execution. 4. Balancing the self. And finally, 5. A tactical architecture for India. Let's get moving.
Okay, Section 1, the extreme trap, the failure of misapplied ownership. This right here brilliantly illustrates the core friction point. You are either exhausting yourself micromanaging every single invoice calculation, or, on the flip side, you're abandoning your team under this dangerous guise of decentralized command. Some leaders became so aggressive that their teams just froze in fear. Others completely choked their own bandwidth by trying to do absolutely everything themselves. And then, there were those who gave their teams so much freedom without any direction that it just resulted in absolute chaos. So obviously, neither of these extremes is going to work in a scaling startup.
Well, to survive the corporate battlefield, you have to operate kind of like a tightrope walker on a razor's edge. You're continuously balancing two extreme failure points. You see, leadership is not this rigid black and white rulebook. It's a dichotomy. If you lean way too far to one side, even if that side seems like a totally positive trait, you're going to fail. You have to maintain absolute center gravity. Now, take a look at this architectural blueprint. It's 12 dichotomies, rigidly categorized so we prevent cognitive overload and actually fix your operational bottlenecks. We've broken them down into 3 core domains: balancing the team, balancing execution, and balancing the self. Look at this matrix. This is basically your new operational dashboard. It shows you exactly where you might be leaning just a bit too far left or too far right in your daily management. Moving to Section 2, balancing people, leading the team on the razor's edge. Phase 1 really shifts our focus to personnel logistics. You have to enforce mission execution, but you can't sacrifice your team's mental bandwidth to do it. You need to know exactly when to adapt your strategies, or when to surgically remove a toxic element that's just ruining your culture. Think about it. If you care too much and you drop the ball on those massive Diwali campaign deadlines, the mission fails and the whole company sinks. But if you act too ruthlessly and treat your people like machines, your absolute best talent is going to flee. A true leader cares deeply for their people, but realizes that making sure the mission actually succeeds is the ultimate form of care, because, well, that's what secures everyone's livelihood. So, the real trick here is finding that decentralized oversight sweet spot. It's about granting complete autonomy, sure, but maintaining strict review checkpoints, like maybe a rigid 90-minute weekly alignment meeting where everyone reports their core metrics. Actually, scratch that. You can't be checking every single CRM data entry yourself, right? That's crazy. But you also can't just disappear and wait for a disaster to happen. You've got to give your juniors the space to make decisions while keeping the operational boundaries and those tracking scorecards absolutely crystal clear. All right, Section 3, balancing execution, systematizing the mission. Phase 2 takes us away from managing people and straight into the brutal, high-stakes reality of operational execution. You absolutely must keep your standard operating procedures radically simple while making sure your core tactical milestones are razor sharp. In a fast-paced market, nobody has the time to read a 100-page instruction manual, right? Your directives have to be crisp. But at the same time, while you're holding the line on ethics and baseline quality, you have to empower your frontline executives to yield just slightly so they can solve unique client problems dynamically without breaking compliance. Now, you have to default to an aggressive mindset if you want to capture market share. But, and this is a big but, you can only take calculated risks with small sampling periods before scaling with full force. If you wait for 100% perfect conditions to launch a new product, I guarantee your business will stagnate. But if you just blindly throw all your capital into an unproven campaign without any back-end support, you're just a reckless gambler. Move fast, for sure, but test the analytics on a small scale first.
Okay, Section 4, Balancing the Self, Mastering Your Inner Architecture. This third pillar requires you to step off the battlefield entirely for a second to audit your own internal leadership software and, frankly, your ego. An elite leader listens openly with extreme humility, but they enforce decisions with absolute authority. They know exactly when to step back and let, say, a junior cloud engineer completely take command of a meeting. Because if the leader's internal systems are compromised, the entire organization is at risk. You can't be an ego-driven bully ignoring feedback, but you also definitely can't be a passive pushover letting deadlines slide. You need humble authority, soft-spoken but hard executed.
Discipline equals freedom. This iconic military doctrine from Jocko proves that discipline gives you this solid operational foundation, but it has to be flexible enough to course-correct when random dynamic variables hit your launch strategy. If your routine is so insanely rigid that an emergency client meeting totally crashes your mental system, well, that's a failure. But if you have zero discipline, you just have chaos. Discipline is what creates the structure that actually allows for true agility.
Finally, Section 5, Tactical Architecture for India, Operationalizing the Matrix.
So let's ground this heavy military theory directly into the cutthroat tech startups and corporate logistics of modern India. By deploying this precise, decentralized autonomy matrix, you ensure maximum execution speed and safety. And you do it without requiring a CEO's approval for every single minor discount or operational shift. You transform your internal hierarchy by giving project managers full decision-making power in their domain, balanced perfectly by a strict financial threshold rule. It's where speed meets ultimate safety. And this brilliantly illustrates how you can balance administrative friction. Let's look at a 5% GST protocol. Your backend automatically handles the exact calculations, right? But that is counterbalanced by a rapid 15-minute weekly human audit every Friday. You simply can't afford to manually calculate complex tax rules, but you also can't blindly trust automation without some verification. This specific system design gives you frictionless invoicing while maintaining total compliance in anomaly detection.
Now, if you are running a B2B agency in Mumbai or maybe Bangalore, you literally must deploy this protocol to escape the daily firefighting. It ensures you aren't stuck calculating micro details while your company drifts off vision. Step out of the trenches. Block out 2 strict hours a week where you are entirely untouchable. Look at the customer retention graphs. Look at the macro trends. And ask yourself honestly, is your current focus actually aligned with the company's long-term vision? So, it's time to upgrade your leadership software. Master this dynamic balancing act. I want you to ask yourself right now, do you have the discipline to lead your team to ultimate victory? Remember, leadership is a continuous high-tension balancing act. Keep your ego at absolute zero. Care deeply for your team, and always step back to survey the battlefield. Because honestly, the moment you think you finally mastered the balance is exactly the moment you start to fall. So what I want to leave you with today is this. Which side of the razor's edge are you slipping toward today?